Well, it is a rainy Tuesday afternoon after all. It's so very chilly out there. Sorry, very chilly. It's only like in the low 50s right now, and since it's raining down here, they're probably getting snow up in the mountains right now, which is great for the skiers. And we sure needed this rain. And it's going to dry up tomorrow, but it's going to be cold. It's going to be chilly again on Thursday. It's going to be a little bit mild Friday and Saturday with temps in the low 60s, but then they say next week we're going to get some more rain, but we might have some atmospheric rivers this winter, and it's good for us. But also, I don't think the Warriors are the biggest Lakers rivalry, but it's kind of like the Dodger Giant rivalry, not quite, but of course, the Giants and Dodgers go way back to like the late 19th century when they were in New York and Brooklyn, respectively. But the Warriors used to be in Philadelphia, and the Lakers used to be in Minneapolis. But when it comes to Lakers, we have better rivals than the Warriors. Warriors, not so much, but starting with the Clippers, you have the hallway series between the LA Lakers and Clippers because we shared the same arena for the past 2 decades. Before that, we used to play our games at the Forum, and the Clippers used to play the Sports Arena. The Clippers were originally the Buffalo Braves, and then they moved to San Diego for a little bit. And, well, it's always like the big brother and then the little brother, When we had Lob City taken over for a while, but LA will always be a Laker town. Of course, with all that rich history and all those championships of Magic and Kobe and Jerry West, But Clippers is a big rival, hallway rivalry. Then you have the Phoenix Suns. When we used to play against Steve Nash when he was like the MVP, and of course he kind of like took away those MVPs from Kobe, but Kobe finally won it in 2008. And we would play the Phoenix Suns in the mid-2000s, but we'd come up short. But we get our revenge in 2010 in the Western Conference Finals. And then last season we played against the Suns. We were the defending champs going in, but we were wounded. So we lost against the Suns in the first round again. And your next rival is the Miami Heat. Not really much of a rivalry, but Shaq used to play with the Lakers, and he was traded for Lamar Odom, and we had a few lean years ahead of that, and then Shaq won another title in '06 with Dwayne Wade. But we played against the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals in the bubble just a couple seasons ago, and we won it in 6 games. Of course, LeBron was part of the big three with Wade and Bosh, too. And then you also have the Philadelphia 76ers with Allen Iverson and Moses Malone and Dr. J in the early 80s. We played them in the finals a lot. But we didn't really have much competition with the Sixers. But we played against Iverson in '01, and we beat him in the 2001 NBA Finals. Then you have the bad boy Detroit Pistons, which were bad blood in the 80s. And we played against them in '88. We won a hard-fought 7-game series. James Worthy was the MVP, with Dennis Rodman, Isaiah Thomas, and Joe Dumars were part of that, and John Sally. We were wounded in '89, so the Pistons returned the favor. But 15 years later in 2004, the Lakers were favored to win that championship against an underdog Pistons team that no one expected. And we had no business losing to the Pistons in '04. And instead, they beat us in 5. And Chauncey Billups just took care of it. And the Wallace boys, too. And then you had the Houston Rockets in the mid-'80s with rookie Hakeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson. And the 1986 Rockets and the '81 Rockets were the only Western Conference team to reach the finals other than the Lakers that decade. And then we had the Chicago Bulls in the '90s. Of course, Michael Jordan against Magic Johnson. Of course, one dynasty was ending while another one was beginning. And we lost to the Chicago Bulls in 91. And Magic, of course, was going to retire soon. But the Bulls would go on a run that year. And that's how it went. The Bulls would win 6 titles in the 90s. The Rockets in between. And then you have the San Antonio Spurs with Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant. And during the 2000s, it would either be the Lakers or the Spurs representing the Western Conference, except for 06 when Dallas did it. But yeah, Tim Duncan, Dave Robertson, Ginobili, Tony Parker, and those guys. And yeah, the Spurs would dominate too. So then you got the Sacramento Kings in the early 2000s when we played against each other in the playoffs. But 2002 was the one. That was the big one because we played against Mike Bibby and Chris Webber in the Western Conference Finals that year. The Cowtown, the Queens, you know. That was a hard-fought series. And if not for Big Shot Rob's three-pointer in that game, we would have lost. But we prevailed in 7. But then I forgot to mention when we played the Spurs in 04, Derek Fisher made the game winner that year. So the Spurs and Kings have been our powerhouse teams in the playoffs, though. And last but definitely not least, it's the Boston Celtics that have always owned the NBA, especially in the 60s when it was Bill Russell. Then in the 80s, it was Bird against Magic, like in that college championship game, Michigan against Indiana. And when Magic beat Bird, and then Bird returned the favor in 84 in a fought 7-game series. And then we won it in 85 and again in 87 with that baby skyhook from Magic. However, Larry Bird would return in 2000 as the coach of the Indiana Pacers against the Lakers. But however, the Lakers got the Pacers that year. And just recently in 08 and 2010, it was Kobe against Paul Pierce. Yeah, the Celtics had their big three in Pierce and Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett, but we lost in 08. It was a bitter taste, but we got revenge in 2010, and Kobe would prevail and be Finals MVP. So there you have it. And definitely, Boston sucks.